Chapter 20. As much as he hated to leave Steph, Noah went to work. But he found it difficult to keep the smile off his face. "Man, you look happy tonight," Tate said as they sat in the cafeteria eating their lunches. Tate was a radiology tech, and they took their lunch breaks together whenever they could. Tonight was Tate's first day back after the lake vacation. "Do I?" Noah hadn't really noticed. He felt good, so why not let it show? "You do." Tate narrowed his eyes and watched him a few seconds longer. "You got laid, didn't you? I thought you were waiting for that girl from the lake." Noah didn't bother to hide it as he rolled his eyes. "No, I didn't get laid. I swear. You have a one-track mind." "Dude. We're men. We're supposed to have a one-track mind." "Think that all you want. I'm a little more evolved than that." "Enough trying to distract me. Why are you so happy if you're not getting laid? Like I said, you were waiting for that girl." "I was. She surprised me tonight before work." "Surprised you?" "Yep. Showed up at my door with dinner. We spent a couple hours together before I had to leave." "Dude. You spent a couple hours and didn't get laid? What's wrong with you?" Noah just shook his head. He knew he'd never get Tate to understand. There were other enjoyable things about spending time with someone than just horizontal gymnastics. Thinking of Steph, he pulled his phone out to check for messages, just as he had gotten in the habit of doing whenever he had a chance. Nothing new. Not that he expected it. She'd told him she was going to bed a couple hours earlier. A smile crept across his face as something occurred to him. She'd surprised him before work, maybe he could surprise her after he got off. Except he didn't know which apartment she was in. Well, that ruined it. That didn't mean he couldn't take her to breakfast in the morning. He sent her a message asking her out, then pocketed his phone and looked up to find Tate looking at him with an amused grin. "What?" Noah suspected his friend was going to spout off something stupid again. "You were thinking about her again, weren't you?" "So what if I was?" Noah lifted one shoulder in a half shrug. "Dude." Tate shook his head. Noah let it go. He didn't want to go through this again. Instead, he tried to decide where he would take Steph for breakfast, if she even agreed to go. Noah stretched, arching his back before climbing into his truck to head home. It had been a pretty good night, all things considered. Busy enough to make the time go fast, but not so busy he was always on the run. He unlocked the door, got in, and pulled out his phone to see what was new overnight. Nothing from Steph, not that he expected to hear from her once she fell asleep, so he opened the app for one of the local news stations. Nothing big had happened overnight. Good. He set his phone aside, started the engine, and headed home. He was about halfway home when his phone rang. The screen on his dash told him it was Steph. He hit the button on the steering wheel to answer the call. "You're up earlier than I expected," he said as a greeting. "Did I catch you at a bad time?" Her voice was thick and husky with sleep, and it made him ache to hear it in person. "No, I'm on my way home." "What's up? Still up for breakfast?" "Sure. I need to run home to shower and change, but I can be ready in," he paused, checking the clock, "about 30 minutes. How's that sound?" "Great. I'll see you then. Text me your apartment number, and I'll pick you up." "Will do." Noah disconnected the call and took the fastest route home. All of a sudden, he wasn't as tired as he had been even 5 minutes before. Noah climbed the stairs and looked for the apartment number Steph had sent him. When he spotted it, his breath left in a whoosh. It felt like someone had punched him in the gut. The last thing he'd expected was to find the same word that they'd scrubbed off her car, scrawled across her door in a red so dark it reminded him of blood. He hated having to show her this, especially when he'd been hoping for a good morning. That made him hesitate a moment, but he knocked anyway. It only took a few seconds for the door to open, revealing a smiling Steph. Noah looked down then away before looking back at her. I hate to do this, especially when I wanted to have a good morning with you, but it looks like he's back. He motioned to the door. I know. Noah frowned. You know. It was there when I got home last night. I've already filed a report with TPD and called the office. She sighed. I'm hoping they'll call when they open this morning and can send someone out to repaint it today. You've already talked to the police? Talked to is a generous word. I called. They told me if no one is in danger and the crime is not being committed in this moment, then go to the website and file a report. I was underwhelmed. I bet. Noah was disappointed no one had come out to see what had been done, but he knew TPD had their hands full and couldn't respond to every vandalism call. Do me a favor? He turned back to her. What? Start carrying your little P238 instead of leaving it in your console. I know you'll have to request special permission to carry it on campus, but hopefully we can get this asshat dealt with before that's an issue. Do you really think it's necessary? God, I hope not. He watched as she grabbed her keys and bag and came back to him. But I'd really hate to say no, and then have something happen to you. Or to have something happen that you might have been able to prevent if you just had it on you. Give me a little bit to think about it before I commit, okay? She waved him out. I don't mind being armed, but I've never carried in town before. Okay. He stepped out and waited while she locked the door before walking her to the truck. He did want her to carry the pistol so she was safer, but he knew it would only help if she was comfortable and confident carrying and using it. Otherwise, it just became something to be taken away and used against her. Where are we going? Steph asked after they were on the road. A little place I found by accident a while back. It's a little bit of a drive, but worth it. Steph shot him a quizzical look then shook her head. Why breakfast? You surprised me with breakfast last night. That was dinner. It was for you. For me it was breakfast. Now I'm returning the favor. She looked at him out of the corner of her eye with her mouth pulled to one side. I did it better. I delivered. You did. Noah laughed. But I had no way of finding your apartment without you giving me the number. You could have just looked for the door with the new paint job. Her face lit as she watched for him to laugh again. Not funny. And don't think I haven't realized you didn't tell me what was going on last night. What good would it have done? You couldn't have done anything, and you would have worried all night. Noah scowled. She was right, but he didn't want to admit it. You slept well after finding that? Actually, no. Noah glanced over and caught her red-faced. Did you sleep at all? No, but it wasn't because of the door, not really. Not really. He wanted to believe her, but there was something she wasn't telling him. Steph sighed and looked away. She shifted in her seat. I was wired after I got home. Pissed about the door and frustrated over what little I could do about it. Understandable. I was planning to go to bed. Silenced my phone and everything. Then I picked up a sketch pad and pencil. Okay. Noah waited for more. He couldn't see why she was acting so embarrassed. The next thing I knew, the sun was coming up. I put my things away and was doing one last check before crashing when I found your message and called. You're telling me you got so absorbed in your drawing that you lost track of time and stayed up all night? He still didn't understand why this embarrassed her. The tops of her ears turned pink. Pretty much. Steph wrinkled her nose as she scrunched her face and pulled her head low between her shoulders, as if she expected to be smacked. Noah shook his head and wondered who had said or done something to make her feel bad about something she was obviously passionate about. That's nice. I'd like to see some of your work, if you'll let me. He suspected from the way she acted that it might take her a while to get comfortable letting him see. We'll see. She looked out the window. Are we headed toward the airport? He wasn't sure if she really didn't know, or was trying to change the subject. In that direction, but not that far. Just a few minutes later, he turned into the parking lot of an aging strip mall and parked the truck. Here. Steph gave the tan and hot pink building a skeptical look. She glanced at him, then at the giant pink flamingo next to the door with suspicion. Trust me. Noah opened his door. I do. Steph got out on her side and came around to meet him in front. She moved close and without thinking, Noah put his arm around her back to rest his hand on her far hip. He didn't realize he'd done it until she moved closer and rubbed her shoulder against his side. I like that. He looked down and realized how natural the gesture had been. Me too. Feels good. He opened the door and held it for her. Inside, they were greeted by a passing waitress and invited to sit wherever they liked. Noah motioned to Steph to choose, and soon they were seated and looking at menus the waitress had delivered.